What is a woman?
A woman is a quantum oscillation amongst 10,000 fractal paradigms in a post-constructivist matrix. Yeah.
What is a woman?
Brother man, in the Nubian cosmos, a woman transcends amongst multifaceted kaleidoscopes amongst 10,000 ancestral vibrations. Yeah.
What is a woman?
Man, we all know what a woman is. A woman is a...
What is a woman?
A woman is an adult female with almost always 2 X chromosomes. Brother man,
You
and youngin, you a sellout.
I'm a straight Democrat, but I'm for the best person.
Oh, yes,
but
sir.
now why you got Donald Trump?
Because I paid attention in school when I was a kid. I know the true history of both the Republican and Democratic Party. I know that they really didn't switch.
Duh.
During the Nixon Southern strategy, that one became more clever than the other in dealing with black people. We the Democrats, we were the Republicans' friends. We was their friends, but we were the Democrat niggas.
Her head explodes.
How many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me, if you are asking me about Muslims illegal immigration, none. Not even one will come to Poland. Not even one if it's illegal. We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
But I asked
This
not
quota
about
system
illegal
failed.
immigrants. I asked about refugees. And Jean-Claude Juncker, the Commission President, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
But this is why Poland is so safe. This is the reason why we had not even one terrorist attack. Look at the streets in Poland, and we can be called populists, nationalists, racists, I don't care.
Well, that clears that up.
In phases 1, 2, and 3, they did what no other studio could do. That every time a new Marvel movie was coming out, we all expected it to be great. We would go into the theaters not wondering if it would be great. We used to go into the theaters expecting, like it was magic. And since Endgame, that magic is gone. We've gone from expecting it would be great to hoping it'll be good.
And the Disney stock just keeps going down and down, and Bob Iger is what's going on in that stock?
Who's racist?
Trump.
Now tell me what makes him racist.
The fact that he called for the public execution of the 5 Central Park motherfuckers even before they went to trial.
Let's say your daughter gets raped.
I'm looking to kill them motherfuckers.
Let's say your daughter gets raped, right? Now, I happen to be in the area because I was wilding, I was robbing people, harassing people. Your daughter gets raped, she's beat so bad that she can't even remember what happened.
She can't even function.
Police arrest me for being in the area, and I admit to doing that to your daughter, right? How would you feel? How would you feel? Answer the question. How would you feel? How would you feel? What did you say right before, just now, right before I let you finish? What you were saying? No, you said you want to kill a motherfucker.
Right.
Is that what you said?
Right.
Yo, if you admit to raping somebody, whether you did it or not, you should never admit it to. And the fact that you did is okay for you to feel like that. Now, you just say Trump is insensitive for not apologizing after finding out that they didn't rape him. But at that moment, he had all right to feel like that. Just like you feel the same way.
She was stunned.
Why did you argue that religious services, religious people pose a greater risk of infection than people gathered to argue for defunding the police?
The policies restricted all types of activity in the district.
All types of activity in the district?
Yes, Senator.
Did it restrict mass protests in the district?
I don't believe it said anything one way or another.
Of course it did, because it didn't accept mass protests. If you want to come and protest, defund the police, if you want to support that, that's fine. You can gather en masse, person to person, close up, thousands of people. That's okay. You know the facts. You were a good lawyer. Why'd you lose?
Senator.
Oh, come on, Judge. Don't make me do this. Mayor Bowser was going to mass protests herself personally with thousands of people. At the same time she was doing that, she was prohibiting churches from gathering socially distanced outside wearing masks.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not too long ago, 2 friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to. In that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
This is what Reagan later meant by "we are a shining city on a hill."
All right, everybody. How are you guys doing today? This is the conservative take. This is actually a special edition that I'm putting together because I want to talk about what happened last night and how crazy everything was with the fallout from the joint session of Congress yesterday. And the important thing for people to realize is that what happened last night, and I said this in our live stream last night, what's important to understand last night, what went down was of epic, historic proportions. Epic, historic proportions. And we're going to cover that a bunch. And what I have laid out here is I'll give you what we're planning for. The first segment, we're going to talk about the initial media and the Democrats and how they insisted on, well, the one clip that was the most powerful one. We'll do that first. I don't want to spoil that. But then we'll go into the polling data, which is absolutely devastating because that's what the title of this video is talking about. It's talking about the polling and how the Democrats are done. I don't want you to have to wait an hour before I get to that. That's going to be the lead in. From there, we're going to talk about a new political realignment. We're going to talk about the Senate map for 2026, how that's looking. And I even briefly talk about the House races as best as I know, which I mentioned a little bit last night. We're going to go into how the Democrats just keep falling into Trump's traps. And we'll talk about how Trump is just brilliant and how he is baiting the Democrats and how he's actually creating not only a division within the Democrats, but he's also uniting the base of the Republican Party in a way that we haven't seen. Well, definitely, maybe Reagan. I was alive for that. But prior to that, who knows? And then we'll talk about some other things too, how the left doesn't have any vision. And then we'll get into some of the things that the human interest stories that went on that you saw in that thumbnail. Mr. DJ Daniel, the 13-year-old gentleman, young gentleman, who is a cancer survivor and wasn't given much long in terms of time to live. And there's a clip that I may show you. I don't have it queued up, but I may show you if I remember. Let me make a note of that. It's a clip where he was actually being bullied this time last year or sometime last year. And the clip goes into, of course, what happened last night with him getting that honorary Secret Service agent credentials. Absolutely fantastic. And along with that, the various people that were not celebrated by the left, it was just, I mean, let's get into it. Let's just get into it. Let's start off with this first clip here. Well, actually, let me do some housekeeping first. And let me tell you guys, first of all, thank you for coming. My name is Kyle Suggs. This is essentially the Kyle Suggs Show. We're streaming on all our outlets here, including Rumble, X, Facebook, and Rumble as well, YouTube, of course. And so what you can do is you can comment here, and I will, when I have time toward the end or whenever I get a break, I will bring those comments up. I will react to them and answer your questions as best as I can. And we'll go from there. We'll keep it lively discussion as we typically do. Give you a little bit of background about me. I have been in the political sphere for quite a long time. And I don't want to go through my entire resume, but I've run campaigns. I've been on boards. I've been on Hall of Fame induction committees. I've done stuff at a level on a national level and on a local level as well. And also been part of the official Republican Party in North Carolina. I was on the executive committee. I was unanimously voted for that. So I've just done a lot. And so I have some experience, but just to let you guys know, the Republican Party in the in the 2010-ish area, all the way up to 2015, 16, I got a little disenfranchised with the GOP, and I pretty much became inactive. And it wasn't until 2015 when I say young man, but a vibrant man came down an escalator with his wife to announce his candidacy for the president of the United States. And that, of course, is Donald J. Trump. From there, I was on full board with the caveat that I'm going where he takes the party, because I believe in America first. I believe in this populism agenda because it's something that helps to align the people of this country together, more so than just a left and right ideological position. So let's take out this first clip here. This clip here is probably it probably got the most response, I would say. Let's take a look at this.
The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
And of course, that was President Trump there talking to the Democrats mainly, because in this joint session of Congress, to his right would be the Democrat side of the session. Okay, you have Democrat senators, Democrat House members, and to his left, you would have Republican senators, Republican House members, and you'd see in these sort of State of Union address or joint session of Congress, you see that, and you see partisanship based on issues. And typically you would see the parties stand up for issues that they agree on, but when it comes to issues that everybody can agree on, both sides stand up. Well, I can't remember this ever happening, but nobody on the Democrat side stood up at all, except for maybe one caveat, and that was the spending on Ukraine. And we'll talk about that as well. And he was trolling the Democrats 100%, because prior to him coming into office and in his campaign with Kamala Harris and before that Joe Biden, they were talking about how bad the border is, how, they finally acknowledged it. For a long time, the Biden administration said that the border wasn't an issue, that this mass invasion of millions of people coming across our border, violating our laws, disrespecting our citizens, violating our sovereignty, was a falsehood. It wasn't true. It's your imagination that the border is secure under Joe Biden. That's what we heard from the press secretary. That's what we heard from Biden when we did get a chance to hear from him. But later on, as the campaign went on, and as the Democrats began to understand that one of the major issues in America was crime and immigration, and those two things, especially along the border and in some of our cities, go hand in hand. They had to say, okay, well, yeah, maybe it is a problem, but we can't do anything about it because, yeah, we have to have a law passed. And Trump's like, dude, look, first of all, this is to Kamala mainly because he dropped out. And he basically said, look, this can be done by you just doing it. And one of the things that Trump did with Kamala was, you are in office now. Why can't you do the things you are promising now? It's not like you're a challenger coming in. You are, in theory, a incumbent. which is interesting because you had two incumbents going against each other. Biden and Trump both had presidential experience, and Kamala was vice president. So, and Biden even said she was involved in everything. She was this, she was that. So she was there for all the decisions. And I think Biden was really upset with Kamala. And I think his wife as well was upset. And they kind of sabotaged her every chance they could get. So that's getting off. So let's talk about these polling here. So, and what the media wants to tell us. They want to tell us that, well, Trump's not that popular. He's not doing right. The egg prices are too high. Inflation is too high. More recently, this whole deal with Zelensky in the White House was a travesty. They give you all these talking points. They get behind these consultant narratives, and they do videos and talking points that say the exact same thing, beat for beat, verbatim, with even video clips of J6 and all that sort of thing. It was so bad that even Stephen A. Smith, who's a Democrat, even he called them out of how shameful that was. But when you see that, you know that they cannot at all be trusted. So the point being is they want to set the narrative that Trump is not popular. Right now, the Democrats, and we'll get into these numbers really shortly here. The Democrats are really in bad shape. From a political standpoint, from a strategy standpoint, they are underwater in just about every single issue that Americans actually care about. And we talked about this last night, how I'm not going to go into all this again, but I will basically say that typically you have a left and right issue, left being in America, that is, left being liberal, going all the way out to the extreme, I would say communism, or it's something even worse than that on the left. But to the right, you would say conservative, going all the way out to, I'd say, anarchy. Basically, no government involved at all. Do what you want. That's fine. Libertarianism would be a little bit, would be much further to the left of that. But that's the spectrum, okay? So, and essentially, what the Democrats have done, because they are so out of line, they have moved themselves, in part because of their hatred of Trump, to the left so far that they're out of the mainstream. And I've said this for many, many years, literally, that if you look at some of these polls that are just wacky, like men and women's sports. Let's take that, for example. Even going back 6 years ago, it was a fringe that was in favor of that, around 20%. So, and that's what we'd see. But then that number crept up to about 30%, and where it basically stands now, more or less, depending on how you frame the question. Anywhere from 20% to about 30% are these wacko fringe areas. But yet they still had a good 20 or 30% of people that were somewhat moderate, somewhat still voted for Democrats, basically from a cultural standpoint, because my dad was a Democrat, because I'm led to believe that Democrats are the party of the people, or because that Republicans are racist. So by default, I'm voting for Democrats. Something of that nature that kept their tent together. Their tent was kept together basically, and this is what got them in trouble recently. Their tent, their big tent, I mean their coalition, the people within the Democrat Party that vote for them, the demographics, young, old, man, woman, that sort of thing. So their big tent, or their tent in general, was, well, prior to, was a working class, blue collar, union based person, not wealthy, basically providing for their family. They are paying month to month for the most part, middle class, and that was pretty much it. That was the sort of thing. And what happened was, in that time frame between, let's say, the 1980s and 90s, going into, let's say, right after Obama, when he started doing and Obama really started this. Okay, ever since his coffee summit, or his beer summit with that police chief, or whatever it was, when that thing happened, ever since then, he started to interject his Marxism into politics. The first term he said, well, first he, as a candidate, he said he was going to unite everybody. In his first term, he sort of did that, but it didn't take much longer into a second term for him to basically go totally racist. That was Obama. So that's when you start to see some of that happening, where the middle class people I mentioned before, the blue collar people, they were left behind, and instead they were shifting their tent to identity politics, which again is where we are now. And with identity politics, the tent is built on victimization. Who is the biggest victim? And whoever that person is, that's where the propriety of our issues come from. The problem is what happens when you have a situation where you have two classes of people who are victims and it's going on at the same time. A great example is illegal immigration and the issue with Israel and Palestine. You can't have it both ways. So Black people who are traditionally Democrat were upset with the illegal immigrants because they were taking the resources in Chicago and New York and all that. So there was, they were like, okay, my ancestors came across on slave ships. Okay. And they bled, sweat, and died and worked for, their families and ultimately to where I am now. I am entitled because of the heritage that I brought to this country, more so than a person who hops over a fence. Why are they given bigger and better treatment? That was the one side, right? So that's a victim class, right? But then you have Palestine. We have part of the Democrat Party who hates one or the other. They don't like Israel, or they don't like the Palestine situation in general, or Hamas or whatever. And so that dichotomy there, who is it? So their coalition was fractured to the point where Trump could sweep in and grab up the pieces that were disillusioned and disenfranchised. The first term when Trump came in 2016, he basically took the people who were blue collar workers, mostly working class whites in the Midwest, Ohio, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and those sorts of areas. He took those up from states and counties that hadn't voted for a Democrat going back to the caucus. He took that from Hillary Clinton. Bill Clinton warned them. Michael Moore, who was the director of bowling for Columbine, he's from Michigan. He warned them to no avail. Wisconsin went for Trump. Michigan went for Trump. Pennsylvania went for Trump. Hadn't happened in years, and he did that. Now, in 2024, what he did was that base stayed with him and actually grew some. And then from there, you had him expanding it to that fractured section of people that were, okay, Palestine, Israel, or Hispanics, illegal aliens versus Black people. Because Black people are a huge portion of their base. And so Trump, he just skimmed off little bit by little bit, 5% here, 3% here, 2% here, 1% here, 5% here, 20% here. If you're talking about unchurched white men under 30 who are blue collar, or 20% from Black people, Black men particularly, who are under 35 who are in urban areas. Okay. Those are big swaths. Add it all up, you have a 1.7 million popular vote victory, and a 89%, I believe, 89% of the counties in the country going to the right. Every single state going to the right. Even Colorado, I think, went by a small margin, but that's what it was. It was a landslide of epic proportion going back to Ronald Reagan, which was a different era, different world. We don't probably never have that kind of thing again unless the Republicans keep going where they're going. If the Democrats keep going where they're going, and Trump and Vance, who I believe will be the nominee in 2028, keep going by 2032, and if they keep putting up these Marxist, leftist wackos like an AOC or anybody on their roster, anybody on their particular bench, they will lose. They will lose at the level of, like, let's say a Reagan or Nixon, where they lose New York, they lose New Mexico, they lose Colorado, they lose Virginia, they lose New Jersey, which they'll probably lose New Jersey in the next 4 years. We're within 6 points in New Jersey. We're within 10 in New York. That's crisis time. They'll lose Maine, both of them. they'll lose Connecticut. I'm sorry, New Hampshire. And now you're talking about 380 electoral college votes. So yeah, that's where we're headed, guys. So since we're talking about that in general, let's bring up some of these polls here. So this is considered one of Trump's greatest speeches ever. The New York Post had this here. Trump touts successes in rousing speech to Congress, says best is yet to come. The reborn of the United States of America. Fantastic there. Here's some polling numbers that came out after the speech. And this is just shockwaves for the left. I mean, look at this. And this speaks to what I was saying before. It's that 30%, the 20 to 30%, somewhere in there. And here's the thing that this should be very troubling for the Democrats. And if I was a consultant who knew anything about politics, I would say that this is one of the most troubling statistics imaginable right here. The reason it being is because, like I said, about 20 years, no, well, let's not go 20 years. Let's go about 10 years ago. The issues were pretty much divided amongst themselves. Actually, let's go back to 2012. That was pretty much Obama's. Is that his first term? 12. Is that right? No, it came in 18, right? I can't remember when Obama. I think about it. But let's go back to Obama's era. So back then, before he got into a second term, okay, he came in 2008, 2012 with the second term. Okay, so 2012, right there, the Democrat Party was aligned a lot with the blue collars. They were aligned a lot with even some evangelicals. They were aligned with Asians. They were aligned with blacks, Hispanics. They were aligned with the elderly when it comes to issues such as Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. So they had a huge swath. They had a registration advantage over Republicans by like millions of votes. If you look at Pennsylvania, Democrats for years had a voter registration advantage over Republicans in Pennsylvania by over 1 million votes as early as, I believe, 8 years ago. And now Republicans now outnumber Democrats, or if it's not there yet, it'll be there within a few months. So, but that's humongous. That's humongous. And the reason being is because the issues that are here that are 30 and 23%, those are fringe issues that would not have been on the scope or the mindset of the average person back in 2012 who was the Democrat. They'd be 55, 60, no matter what. That's what it would be. But to have a president, I don't know how I can stress this to you guys enough, how devastating these numbers are. They're absolutely devastating. Because what this is showing me as a consultant, if I was a consultant, is that the Democrat Party has officially become a fringe party. And these numbers aren't in a vacuum. These numbers go into the numbers we saw yesterday about issue by issue, about immigration, about crime. It was anywhere from, I think the worst one was 61%, and the rest of them went all the way up to 80% issues in terms of what people cared about. So this is not in a vacuum. So what this means is the only people who are on the bandwagon for the Democrats are wacko fringe lunatics. That's it. And what I mentioned yesterday in the live stream, I mentioned the fact that, we have this realignment that's happening from a horizontal left and right, from a liberal conservative, from a Democrat Republican to a vertical alignment of issues that are apolitical, issues that don't matter. Like, I want clean air. I want safe schools. Okay. Those are apolitical issues. We're not talking about issues like, okay, we're going to talk about supply side economics versus Keynesian economics, which is better. That's going to be an ideological thing where you have someone who's debating about how goods get to market and how people profit from them and how we regulate them against corporate cronyism. All right. That is a wonky type of deal. But I guarantee you, if you do that today, it will probably be about 50-50. It'll probably be 60-40, or who knows what it'll be. But it would be closer than it is this. We're not talking about that. And what Trump was able to do, the issues that he brought together were all apolitical issues. Every last one of them. Some of them were more interesting, or some of them were a little bit more nuanced. Like, let's say, drilling in Anwar in Alaska. That's an apolitical issue because it's still energy, and there may be a different desire of how to do energy. But under the surface, there is an element of security. We understand, if you go back to the embargo in the 70s under Jimmy Carter, how not having our own energy in our own country can cause massive issues. Look at what happened in the Iraq War in 91. They went to save Kuwait to get the oil to prevent it from being taken over by Saddam Hussein, because tanks run on oil, airplanes run on oil, we make plastics out of oil, and so it was a big deal. So if we have our own stuff, we can be less reliant on other people. And plus, with the economy being what it is, people are more educated and they understand, okay, drilling in Anwar does make sense, not from an ideological standpoint, but from a fairness, from a common sense standpoint. And the rest of them were all common sense, moral issues, or safety issues. Okay, crime, or something like men playing in women's sports. It's common sense. It's unfair, and people want fairness and they want common sense. And every single issue that Trump is going on, that he ran on, is a common sense, apolitical issue. I mean, he didn't run on an omnibus. Trump isn't going to talk about, some political issue that's dealing with, okay, well, we're going to tax here at this particular rate here because it's better this way. I mean, he may get into some details, but not really. He's a high level kind of guy, which is why I'm excited about J.D. Vance getting in, because he is a policy guy. So if Trump can set the stage, take care of all the dirty work, go through the woods with the machete and knock down the trees and clear a path, I think J.D. Vance can carry that for the next 8 years and become only the third president in U.S. history to be an active vice president to directly go into the White House behind that president. The first one was Martin Van Buren. His president was Andrew Jackson. And the other one was H.W. Bush. His president was Ronald Reagan. All right, so let's go through some of these poll numbers here. That's another one. So let's take a list. So this is just a high level. Now, here's the thing. You have CNN and CBS. Both of these polls are not the bastions of conservatism. Now, this isn't Breitbart, right? This isn't Daily Wire or National Review. No. Heritage Foundation. No. This is the legacy media, and even they can't hide it. So let's go to these internals now. These are polls that are dealing with the actual speech and people's reactions to the speech at a more granular level. This is more like crosstabs, more or less. So this is crosstabs. This is more like reactionary polls. So this is YouGov, CBS poll. So this poll here is basically taking this top number here and breaking it down, getting into the weeds. So let's go to this next one here. So this one here is views of Trump's speech among speech watchers. So as they're watching this, I think they have a button and they'll do a yay or nay, depending on how they feel, I'm assuming. So the first one was here, 76% approve of Trump's speech. It's a very high number, guys. Super duper high. And here you have below, time Trump spent on issues you care about. 63% said a lot, 28% said a little, and 9% said none at all. I'm telling you, the Democrat Party, they could act like they want. I mean, look, I ran a campaign. I know this stuff. If I was running a campaign and saw these numbers, I would be on cloud nine. My district that I ran, or I helped lead my candidate, was a disaster. The demographics weren't there, the numbers weren't there, but nevertheless, you fight and you try and get moral victories where you can, and you just do the best you can. But with this kind of playing field right here, there is no way that well, I won't say that yet, but here we go. Check it out. So 9% says none at all. That is nothing. So basically, if you add 63 to 28, now you're talking essentially 90% of people felt that Trump talked to them a little bit or a lot. So if you average out a little and a lot, you can just basically say, get the mean average there for the most part. He hit on issues that almost every single person in this country who watched his speech, he hit on something that they cared about. And not only that, underneath that surface there, we know that the way the question is phrased is what you care about. Okay, that's fine. So what they could be about abortion. I could be anti-abortion, so I care about the abortion, but I don't like his position on abortion. But remember how I said before, every single issue last night was a vertically aligned issue, apolitical, which meant that it's a very, very strong chance, I'd say in the 80 percentile, that those people, when he mentioned any issue that he cared about, whether it be a little or a lot, they agreed with him on that issue. This right here is absolutely devastating. Next one here is, speech made you feel hopeful. This is very, very devastating for these guys. So, but this does have a little bit of promise for Democrats if you look at this. So hopeful 68, proud, that could be mutually exclusive. So it doesn't mean you can add them together and say you got it. You can be hopeful and proud at the same time. So I don't know how that's actually worked out in terms of the math, but worried and angry, that's a pretty good number for Democrats. So I suspect, looking at this, they're going to target angry and worried, and they're going to try and get that number up to about 30 and 40% if they can. If they can get that up there, they feel they have a chance in the midterm. So that's why it's important for people like myself and others to basically level set people, let them know that what Democrats are saying, a lot of it is just for effect. It's just to get people angry, get people nervous and worried. That's what they do. If you get people worried and angry, they will go to the polls and vote. So that's going to be a challenge for Republicans come midterms, because low propensity voters, which are who the ones that Trump got. Low propensity voter means a person who's only voted one time in the last 4 elections, one or no times in the last 4 elections. That'd be midterm, presidential election, what have you. And so getting these people to vote in the midterm can be a little challenging, and that's going to be our big challenge. But what I'm hoping will happen, that the Democrats will do something stupid, I mean more stupid than yesterday, and keep the pressure on of stupidity, to keep it in the minds of people that these people are totally insane, and that alone should be enough energy to get people to the polls in the midterm to do this right. And if that happens, we should be fine. Especially if people like Al Green, the Geico dude, you know what I'm talking about? The Geico guy who got kicked out of the thing yesterday. Even a caveman can do it, that guy. He's talking about impeachment and all that crap. So if I actually hope that they push impeachment. I hope that they say impeachment to the cows come home for the next year and a half. I hope they do, because all that's going to do is going to make Republicans say, oh, heck no. There's no way I'm going to let you guys get the majority to impeach him for a third time. Not going to happen. So the more they talk about impeachment, which I'm hoping they will talk more on this, then it would just, the numbers will go way up. It will give MAGA incentives to do it. Independents will give them incentive to do it as well, because once they get the reconciliation bill in place, hopefully signed in early May, and what the reconciliation bill essentially is, it's a bill, which I'm not fully versed on this, but it's a Senate thing where the House, first of all, the House passed a budget, essentially, where Trump was asking for money for the tax cuts, for spending, for defense, for a number of things to get his agenda in place, for security, for ICE, for deportations and all that. So he wants this, what he calls a big, wonderful bill or big bill, everything together so he can do what he needs to do without having to worry about waiting for legislation to get passed. So that's already passed in the House by a slim margin. And now it goes to the Senate, who has different kind of rules, and they call it reconciliation. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'll get back to you on that. But the Senate, and I've heard this argument, and I don't really fully agree with it, but I kind of see what they're sort of saying. The Senate wants to make it into two bills. We'll give him what he needs now, and we'll give him what he needs later. We'll have to see about that. Because they say Leader Thune, who's the majority leader in the Senate, said that he doesn't want us to get a big bill and have it fail and collapse because there's too much money being spent and the people, the consumers, aren't feeling the benefit of whatever they were given, and thereby you lose support for the whole bill because people aren't feeling the effects of what's happening, or something happens and it falls apart. So if you give it to them in pieces, we can give them the stuff we need in May now and get to the other stuff they need in November of this year. I don't know. I see both sides of it. I don't know. We'll see. But the point is, by the time, let's say, May rolls around in 2026, now we're talking about campaign season. We're talking about midterms and this sort of thing. By then, people would have had to have felt the effects of the tax cuts and so forth, and the increase in energy production, prices going down there. Chickens will have laid a lot more eggs by then, so we should have eggs back in production. We should have inflation should be stabilized. And if we get that gold card in as well, hopefully get more people coming in, paying that $5 million, use that against the debt. And they haven't talked about this at all, but giving 20% of the savings from Doge to the consumer in a check of $5,000, let's say, to help stimulate the economy from money that's already been allocated. If all that happens, then the midterms would be a cakewalk, an utter cakewalk. So, and looking forward to that. We'll talk about that in a little bit more, in a little bit here. Okay, we talked about the political realignment, and all right, so let's keep going on these polls. So next poll is, does Trump have a clear plan for inflation? Wow. In fact, guys, this is the first time I've seen this, actually. I just pulled them up and I was going to talk about it on the fly. That's a high number. And he does. He has a really good plan for it, and it's an all-out assault on inflation. It's not just one thing at all. It's not some stupid bill that Biden put in place, which actually raised inflation. Just calling something an anti-inflation bill isn't going to make it so. It's just propaganda. So, yeah, so Trump's going to hit it with energy. He's going to hit it with deregulation. He's going to hit it with cutting costs, waste, and fraud. He's going to hit it with tax cuts, get more money in people's pockets so they'll spend more. And the supply side will, the demand will go up because, I'm sorry, if there's more supply, the prices will come down. And if we have more manufacturing, which he's trying to do, bring different companies in, incentivize them to come in from overseas into America. Don't worry about the tariffs. You're good. We got you. And speaking of tariffs, by April 2nd, he's going to impose the reciprocal tariffs, which basically says, if you charge us $1 in tariffs, we'll charge you $1. It's going to be equal so that it's fair. And I think that's a really good approach. And that's going to bring billions of dollars into our coffers, just like it did against China back in his first term. They were so good that even Joe Biden kept them in place. So yeah, that's pretty good. So I think people understand that. And what this tells me here, which is key, because I've done this a long time, guys. I've done this a long time. For a wonky, question like this, for it to be 68%, such a high number, it could be two things. It could be a bias built in. Okay, it could be just that Trump's popular, so I'm going to say he has a plan, even though I don't really think he's got a plan. Or it could be because this is a liberal poll. It could be what I say it is, what it says it is. I think probably. Let's see. The margin of error on this is plus or minus 3 to 4 points. Okay, so this could be as low as 64 or as high as 72, which is still very high. And so what I suspect is that Trump is speaking at a level that people can understand, and that people aren't in tuned. They aren't stupid. So even though it's a wonky question like this, it's a more of a, it's a real question. I think people understand that he's trying to hit it from all different angles. And I think that's very, very encouraging for Trump as well. And bad for the Democrats, because it means that their narratives aren't working. All right. At least right now, they're not. All right. So let's see here. The second one is, do you like Trump's plans for wasting government spending? I mean, this is just a no-brainer. Immigration, border, Ukraine, Russia. That's a big one. You listen to the media, and you would think that that Doge is just an anathema for Republicans, or that Ukraine and Russia would be an anathema for the country. But at 73%, I think people get it now. They get it. I think I saw a stat. I think it was on CNN, that going back to 2022 in February, there was literally a 600% increase in the lack of support for Ukraine, whereas before it was like 6%, and now it's like 60. It's like 6% people were opposed to it. Now it's like 42% are opposed to our intervention in Ukraine. People are seeing it, and I think the Republican Party is doing a really good job of getting the message out. Tariffs, another one which I expect to be a little lower, which is great, but it's still a really good margin there. People understand what's going on with tariffs. Trump last night said there could be a little pain going on here, because as we're taxing other people, they're going to reciprocate those taxes on us. It's going to raise our prices a little bit more, because we can't manufacture that stuff fast enough in the short term to compensate. So if we're buying everything from China right now, or not Canada, let's say China, and a pen costs $1 now, or let's say it costs $1 now, but they impose a 100% tariff, means that for me, this pen's going to cost $2. Okay. Well, if we want to lower the price of this pen, we have to make them here in America at a cheaper price, make them at $1, so we can buy it for $1, and basically that pen gets cut in half in terms of its pricing, because we're buying it from this country, because there's no tariff. The problem is it takes time to build that factory, get the labor force up, get the production lines in, get it tested, get all that stuff. It could take 6 months to get that manufacturing facility, up and running. We're manufacturing this pen at a costly manner. Even though you may do a couple of production runs, doesn't mean you're running at optimal efficiency. It may take 8 months to get it down to $1, because you could have waste in your production. The machines may be new, but they may be not, whatever. There may be bad training. So it just takes time to get that efficiency down to the point where you get that pen down to $1 to compete against China. Well, not even $1. Get down to $1.90. It's still 10 cents cheaper than China. That's where that pain comes from that he's talking about, or that I'm not sure what word he used, but and that's where patience is going to have to come in. But also, if he gets that $5,000 check to people, if he gets the border under control, if he gets the tax cut savings, there will be enough there to offset that sort of thing. All right. In theory, I agree. Tariffs could be inflationary, but in the short term, and if you don't have good manufacturing in this country, which we do have, World War I showed us that. World War II and World War I, for that matter, showed us that. And Trump is talking about bringing back shipping, building ships here in America again. And so, so he's really talking about that. And I think his style of leadership and his style of talking at that 7th grade level resonates to people. People call him dumb because of the way he talks. Well, he's not talking like a Rhodes Scholar, like a Bill Clinton, who would talk in platitudes and would talk about different things and pie in the sky and talk over your head. Yeah, it sounds nice, but it kind of goes over the head of many people. So, but by him doing that, it allows him to articulate issues like tariffs, like inflation, the nuances of negotiating with people like Zelensky and Russia, and how that has to work, and how that comes in, and how you have to give him the benefit of the doubt for, number one, being able to do it as a president, but also doing it his whole life as a deal maker. All right, let's go to the last one here. This last one here is Trump described crime problem as this is another big one. So crime, okay. This is incredible. This is 90% essentially say that crime is basically what it is, if not worse. And that's bad. And having congressman removed from the chamber, that was Mr. Al Green, 76% of people approved on that, and only 24% disapproved. Again, this falls in line with those left-wing wackos of around 20 to 30%. So you always see that. So if you come back to this one here has the tariffs at about 35%. So that's going into more some of the middle class, or some of the moderates are in this situation, but not many. And okay, I missed this one. So this down here says, in Trump's speech, was he presidential? 74%. Entertaining? 74%. Inspiring? 71%. Unifying? 62%. And I can see that because he really went after the Democrats there big time. And divisive, which I felt that would probably be a little higher. But what's happening here is 30% of the liberals are in that, but the other 16% are your moderates. So 16% of moderates are feeling that speech last night was divisive. So if I'm a Democrat strategist, whatever, consultant, I would try and focus on that 16% and see if I can get that 16% to about 30%. If you can do that, now you're cooking with grease, especially in the midterms. But right now it looks really good for Republicans. I say keep it going. As long as Trump continues to do what he says he's going to do, he's going to be on the right side of all these. I mean, people are going to be on the right side of his issues because they are vertically aligned issues. They're not, they're not wonky or ideological issues. They are common sense issues. They're fair issues. The issues dealing with security, we all agree with. Safe homes, safe schools. We want clean water, clean air. We want controlled borders. We want to have lower prices. We want to be able to feed our kids. And that's pretty much where it comes down to. All right, so let me pull up some other stuff here. In the meantime, I'm going to look at some comments here. If you see any comments here. Okay, so let me pull this out. And by the way, if you want to comment here, just throw it in there, and I will see it, and I will come in, and I will talk about it. So Sua Sponti, I hope I said that correctly, says the only way this ends is to secure our voting systems. Yes, that's a really good point, and I hadn't even brought that up in the last few elections or last two videos. I agree. I think, if we were to do that anyway, if Trump does nothing else and fixes the election integrity across the board, the Republicans are going to win, in a comfortable fashion of upwards of 280 electoral college votes without breaking a sweat, just because of all the fraud that goes on in these various states. I think Colorado goes red. I think Colorado is a mail-in only vote state, I believe, only mail-in voting. And if you look at the various states that Kamala actually won, a lot of them didn't have voter ID laws. So yeah, you have a good point there. Donatello says Democrat behavior was unacceptable and utterly disgusting and disgraceful. I have never seen anything like this before in my life, and I can't agree with you more on that. I think what they did was they made themselves look really petty, and you don't want to do that with people, because if you do that, then people are going to look at you as unserious. They're going to look at you as childish. They're not going to they're going to look at you as untrustworthy, and they're going to look at you as someone who is just in it for themselves. Because if you want to look at the success of Doge and the things that are coming up from that, people are becoming more and more open to the idea that more is better in terms of cuts, that these politicians and these bureaucrats on both sides are just covering for themselves, and they don't care about the American worker, the American people. And that is something that is going to carry into and reinforced when they see these Democrats acting like children. I mean, why are you acting like that? Is it because you really care about? No, that's not true. I mean, if you do care about it, if you're passionate, it still should not make you act that way. And I think that's what people are really, really thinking about here, is that you talked about everything else. I mean, you sat down on your hands on every issue that's vertically aligned, in which you should have been talking about, or you should have been happy about, at least standing, clapping, at the minimum, of a woman who had her child killed by illegal alien, or a wife who had her husband killed by a thug who's a police officer, or a 13-year-old kid who is living with brain cancer, and all he wanted to do was ever be a cop, and now he has the honor to be enlisted as an honorable Secret Service agent. Or the gentleman who just wanted to be a West Point cadet. He had a high average grade-wise. He wanted to get in, and his acceptance letter got taken. All of those should have been a moment where everyone stands up. I get it if you want to talk about the policies. I get it if you want to talk about that. But those things lead to optics that are insanely bad, that just reinforce what Donatello said here. Totally unacceptable on all levels. And that's really gonna hurt them. And I said last night in my when I was tweeting out, I said that we were watching the death of the Democrat Party in real time, because they don't have any issues to stand on, and to act this way, it really, for the reasons I mentioned before, are devastating. So just check this number right here. This is so this here has the Senate race they're looking at right now. So right now, the Senate forecast right now is we will hold 53 seats. Democrats will hold 45. The toss-up of 2, Georgia and Michigan. And those could easily go to Republicans, because I believe Kemp, who's the governor of Georgia, might go for the Senate seat there. And I'm not sure about the situation in Michigan, but Trump won Michigan. So we could see 55 there fairly easily. Elon Musk says that we could probably get to 60. I'm not sure about that, but we'd have to get it from maybe New Hampshire, Minnesota. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a tough haul there. I'm not sure if we can do that. I don't think we can do that at all. But we can get to 59 maybe. I don't see 60. And why is 60 important? 60 is where you have a filibuster-proof Senate, I believe. And you can pretty much pass anything you want if you have people who are loyal within your own party. And this is what Elon Musk said. He says, I think we can get to 60 senators. We'll see, Elon. I hope you're right. I'm not sure you are. If you are, I don't think you are. This particular Democrat poster or pundit, he basically came out and said, look, the biggest winner and the most lamentable losers from Trump's speech. And he basically said the Democrats were essentially doing what that we all said that they were doing, acting like petulant children. He said Trump had a bold vision. He said the Democrats had absolutely nothing. Also, we saw, well, let's go, I'm kind of jumped ahead here. Let me go to this clip here. This is a clip of Al Green, who is, and let's talk a clip from Brit Hume as well. So let's go back up a little bit. So let's talk about how the Democrats fell right into Trump's trap. And what I mean by that is that one thing Trump was able to do in 2016 was he was able to, once he found out that the Democrats were angry at him, who didn't understand the way he was running his campaign. And I'll take you back to that. I'll take you back to when Trump came down. I'm not remember how many people were running in that race in 2016, but it was a lot of people. Ben Carson, the governor of Chris Christie. You had the Hewlett Packard CEO, I forget her name right now. You had Jeb Bush. You had Cruz. You had Rand Paul. You had, I think you had Huckabee is there as well, I believe. You had a bunch of people, all of them super qualified. And yet Trump came out pretty much, I think was Rubio on there. Yeah, Rubio was there as well. And yeah. And so Trump had to take these guys out one by one. And what Trump is good at, he's good on TV. He understands the camera. He's very charismatic. He's a fighter. And he came up with a strategy to come out where he would get noticed. Because early on, Trump didn't have a lot of money. Yes, he's a billionaire. But it's not very wise to spend your own money on a campaign. It's just not wise. You won't get the money back. Unless you're a crook. If you're a crook, you get the money back. But he didn't want to do that. So he had small donations come in because he said, I'm rich on the stage. I can support my campaign for a while. Nobody on the stage can do it but me. You can't buy me out. And that was good. But then he started saying things that got him free media or earned media, which means you spend no money for it at all. You have a interview with somebody, you say something that goes viral, and next thing you know, everybody's talking about you. So Trump did that constantly. He was braggadocio. I mean, he hit hard. Go back and look at the campaign of 2016, the things he said. And then, of course, you had the Access Hollywood tape that came out. And then when that happened, people thought he was over. But then Steve Bannon, who was the publisher of Breitbart Media, he basically had the clever idea, okay, so you want to do this? Let's do a press conference where we have the people who allegedly were assaulted by Bill Clinton, who, by the way, his wife was the person Trump was running against. A masterstroke. And that pretty much ended that whole Access Hollywood thing. And it told people that Trump's here to fight. He's not going to give up like Herman Cain had to do, like several others in the past had to do when these scandals happen. First of all, he's a private citizen, and you know the whole story. So it's not a big deal. But the point is that he was brash and he attacked people. He even attacked Ben Carson when he had to. He attacked Rubio. Marco Rubio, who's his current Secretary of State, got into a heated battle about the size of their privates. And it got into the gutter. And of course, with Ted Cruz, it kind of got scandalous when he was talking about Cruz's wife and implications of him and JFK. It got pretty crazy. But here's the thing. I told this to my wife the other day. There are two people out here in the world. The people that see Trump for who he is and the things that he does with this shtick, with this, what he does, and understand it's a means to an end to brand somebody. So that when you say, okay, you think of Jeb Bush, he called him low energy. He could never shake that. He finds something about someone that is true, he pins it on them, and then there it is. Little Marco, called Little Marco Rubio. It goes on and on. But people who understand that, they get it. Okay, that's what it is. You don't really mean that. I mean, you might mean it, but it is what it is. It's all fair and love and war. But then there's some people, the other side, never forget. They're petty. They cannot get over it. You hurt me, I'm going to come after you. People like Megyn Kelly got over it. People like Ben Carson got over it. Marco Rubio got over it. Ted Cruz got over it. They got it. But Chris Christie, no. Mark Cuban, a different kind of thing, didn't. And everyone else didn't get it. Not to mention, the Democrat Party is now a hive mentality, a sheep mentality party. Whatever says goes. They're like this character in video games called non-playable characters. You may have seen it. It's called NPC, where basically this character in this video game is just like an extra on a movie set. They're just going around and doing something just to fill space. They just do whatever they're doing, and they're all doing it together, like lemmings. Those people, if they're told something about somebody, what ribbon to put on your Facebook profile, whether it be a shot that you put in your body, whether it be a country to support, whether it be a cause to support, no matter how irrational it is, they'll do it because they're helping. They're virtue signaling. They want to put themselves above people who in their mind, they feel that anyway. But by virtue signaling or by expressing your angst and saying, this is just crazy, people think of you as a virtuous person because of your actions against said issue, country, or policy. And so those two people, those two groups, the people who get Trump and are like, I get it. I get it now. I see what you're doing. And the other side saying, screw you, I hate you, Orange Man bad, nothing. And once Trump was able to figure that out, he knew that he could win the election because all he had to do was take an issue that the Democrats weren't really focused on, sit there in the middle, and watch the left run to the left. So let's say I'm going to talk to steel workers in Pennsylvania who are feeling that they're being pushed out because regulations are happening in their particular town, and it's causing the prices to go up, and they're going to have to go out of business. So they're going after blue-collar workers. Well, the left sees that, and then they double down and say, well, that's because we need more international support. We need to bring in more foreign workers. Or we need to offshore our jobs, or just worse yet, let you guys be laid off because we can't take a position that Trump agrees with because we're in that part of that particular group of people who don't like Trump, never get over it, what he says, will always believe what the media tells them to believe, or they're personally hurt by him, and they're going to be used by pundits on the other side to say, hey, look, see, he was on Trump's cabinet. See, he hates Trump and all this sort of thing to drive home a narrative that Trump is some sort of bad person and his policy is bad, and therefore let's vote against it. In the meantime, the people are being hurt because they're not servicing the people that issue is supposed to be about. And when Trump saw that, he just did that constantly. And what we saw last night, that's exactly what he did again. He knew early on that they were not going to talk to him or not. They were not going to applaud. They were not going to clap for him. They were not going to support him. And so they said, you know what? We're not going to do that. So Trump just said, you know what? Fine. I'm just going to troll you the whole night. I'm going to talk to you as if you're children. I'm going to point at you when things I know are going to piss you off, because he knows that they're going to go off. They're going to go off on MSNBC, CNN, the legacy media, and act a fool. And that's just going to cause more and more of a rift. It's going to bring the right closer together, more united, and it's going to push them and alienate them to a marginalized party, which is what's happening. So let's do I have this clip here? 2026. Do I have that clip? No, I don't have that one. I need clip 505.13. Let's see if I can find that one. So I'm gonna pull this clip up here, clip 505.13. This is Britt Hume. Here's what he said.
Most effective. I mean, if you ever doubted that Donald Trump is the colossus, the political colossus of our time and our nation, this night and this speech should have put that to rest. The Democrats seem to be falling into trap after trap after trap as he recognized these people and celebrated the people he pointed to in the gallery and their stories, while the Democrats sat glumly on their hands through all of that. It was a terrible look. Al Green's attempt to disrupt the speech was a bad look for the Democrats. This was I think, politically speaking, this was pretty powerful stuff, as powerful as I think I've heard.
That was Britt Hume of Fox News last night talking about that, and he basically reiterated what I just said, that the Democrats just kept falling for stuff. They kept falling for. I mean, who was the whip? Who's in charge of the Democrats last night? And the whip is the person who's in charge of whipping the coalition into shape, telling them what to do, when to stand, when to sit. He or she's like the orchestrator. And whoever that was made a huge miscalculation by not allowing his people to stand up on issues that deal with human interest stories, by heroes, kids with cancer, mothers who have lost their children, wives who have lost their husbands. It was just or a young man who wants to join the military at the highest level. I don't know what their strategy is, what their plan is. All right, we're going to play clip 505.15. This is Al Green's attempt to protest was a humiliating failure. This is a little bit longer. I may not see the whole thing, but I think it's important for you to see it if you didn't see it last night. But Al Green, I'm not sure where he's from. I have a lot to say on this guy. Let's just play it. Okay, we're missing the audio. There's no audio on this one. I may have another clip here. Let me see. I may have another clip, but this is him being let out. I have another clip here somewhere on this which shows the whole thing. So let me restart this. All right, so let's just pause this. So, all right. So here he is in the center here with the slick back hair, the ponytail, the Geico beard. And he was raising his cane. He's got a cane. He was raising it at the president. And it was just a fiasco. I have that video. I'm going to find it here. Let me pull that up because I want you to see that. Okay, here it is. 1505B. All right, let's check this one out. This is a few minutes long. But just take this in. If you saw it last night, watch it again and it's insane.
Largest 1 month gain ever recorded, a 41-point jump.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning. Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session.
All right, let's stop it here for a second. So, like I said, I've been involved in a lot of different things. I've been in national conventions for young Republicans, which were contested, very, very dramatic, very, very volatile, very, very heated. And I've been in smaller meetings on boards and committees that I've been on. I've been a chair or even a member on several boards. And sometimes things do get out of hand. And you have to have security come in. And the security is called the Sergeant at Arms. If you're talking about parliamentarian procedures, it's a whole book of it. Robert's Rule of Order is part of that, but parliamentary procedures dictates all that. And as a president of several organizations, I've had to threaten maybe once or twice to get the Sergeant at Arms to do something, to get someone out of the room because there was something going on that was. Okay, I got some posts. Okay. Because, you know, it happens. But typically, if you threaten to throw somebody out, typically they don't do it. So last night, I got a chance to see for the first time at the highest level, the parliamentarian, in this case, the Speaker of the House, literally throw someone out. It was awesome.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant at Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Just look at him. I mean, come on. I'm going to go ahead and go here and say it now because since we're talking about this guy. Whoever the whip is, whoever is in charge of the Democrat coalition, dumb. Whatever. To have this guy be your spokesperson? Are you kidding me? Just from sheer optics alone, the guy is a buffoon. Are you kidding me? This is going to be your guy? This is going to be the guy that's going to lead you on this? Yeah. Serious. And let me go back here a little bit. I'm just going to talk about this next. These signs these guys are holding up. They had these signs as the president would say something. They would hold a sign up like Musk steals or false or whatever. And they were on their cell phones getting information from whomever, telling them when and what sign to put up. I just can't, guys. I just can't.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House. Mr. President, you continue.
And so right now what's happening is that they're actually going to censure him. I'm not sure if that's passed yet, but censure basically means that they put you down and they basically, everyone talks about you and basically scold you. And it goes on the congressional record, which means it's permanent. And it just is an embarrassment. It's a punishment that they can do. And I think they can even kick you out if it's bad enough. I'm not sure how that works, but there's a check in there to impeach members of Congress. I am pretty sure that exists. So I'm going to go to optic number 606. (606:17). Let's pull that one up. And I think you saw that before. I think I showed you before, so maybe it's redundant. But no, that's not it. I think this is it. So they have these signs. I mean, what is this? It just looked, I mean, not only is it dumb, it's also False. Musk steals. The man's worth over $400 billion. What is he stealing? Oh, is he stealing? No, what he's doing is he's preventing you from stealing. That's what he's doing. As far as protecting veterans, they're referring to veterans who have been either removed from the military for whatever reason. I know one for sure was a woke person, and it doesn't matter if, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, he has a constitutional duty to put in place the people that he feels best helps the country. And if he doesn't have confidence in you to do your job or do the job he wants in the way he wants it, you got to go. And it's not necessarily personal. And so what the Democrats are doing is they're trying to do the only thing they really can do at this point, if they want to try and squeak out a midterm, is to resist and be ridiculous. If they were smart, and they're not, they would go along with Trump. They would help him. They would stick to policy instead of saying, okay, firing the staff of, let's say, USAID, whatever. Instead of saying that, take up the argument of, sure, yeah, fine, they should go, okay. However, let's fire them in every 3 months we get rid of X number of people. It's a talking point that won't happen, but at least people are thinking, okay, well, they're trying to be reasonable. And instead, they call him Hitler and a Nazi and a fascist and a dictator, and all of this, Putin's puppet. When all you have to do is, instead of going all the way out there, is just say, okay, fine, we agree in principle, you're right, but let's do it a different way. That's all they had to do. If they were smart, they would do that. And obviously, they're not smart. So let's say here, and their brand is 100% negativity and obstruction. That's all they have right now. That's all they want to do. And as we get into this, let's talk about the people that they ignored, because they sat on their hands the entire time. So I'm going to bring up clip number 70719. Have you take a look at this, because this is dealing with Dems refusing to stand for angel families and victims of migrant crime. So let's check this out here. This is 70719. Let's try 70720.
Reaction to Trump's speech, 44% of speech watchers in our instant poll tonight say they had a very positive reaction to Trump's speech. 25% somewhat positive, 31% negative.
All right, that's the wrong clip. Here we go, 70720.
Gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer.
All right, again, that's the wrong clip, but this is the same segment. So there's three of them here. One's Angel Family. The other one is this guy, DJ Daniels. This gentleman here, he's 13 years old. Hold on a second here. I got a comment here. I'm putting it up here. Fire on the Planet said, I thought holding up signs were against the House rules. Though I'm enjoying the memes, I hope the sign holders get censored as well. That's a good idea. I'm gonna put a pin in that. I'm gonna star it and come back to that. Thank you for that comment. But this guy here, DJ, wanted to be a police officer. He's 13 years old now. He was given, I think, 5 months to live at 6 years old, somewhere in there. And now he's 13. And he's got brain cancer. I think he had 13 surgeries. And so his dad's there to his left. He was just in the Oval Office today. He gave President Trump a hug in the Oval Office. But I'm not going to spoil it if you don't know it. Let's just play it from here. I set it up now. Let you just see for yourself. If you haven't seen it for the first time, if you haven't seen it, see it now for the first time, and if you haven't seen this, you're going to get a little warm and fuzzy, if not straight up crying. Here we go.
But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
What does that remind you of? You have this gentleman here. He was at Butler, Pennsylvania, when Trump got shot, and he's raising him up. It reminds me of the fight imagery. We had this guy who was actually there, and it just reminds me of that. So I'm not sure if anyone picked up on that, but I thought about it when I saw it the second time. Sorry, my microphone got turned off. I had to turn it back on, so we're good now. Every time I see that, I get watery-eyed. I just do. I mean, when he hugs the guy, I mean, I don't know how you could not feel something there at that moment. I just don't know. I don't know. 13 surgeries. My son at an early age was in intensive care around 8 months. He had heart surgery. I don't think I've ever mentioned it on publicly, but I'm mentioning it now. And we were at Johns Hopkins, and actually Ben Carson was actually there. This is back in 2000. And so fortunately for us, the surgery, even though it was serious, it's open heart surgery. It's an infant, 8 months, first son. And yes, it's stressful, but there was a prognosis. If he gets through the surgery and he heals up, he'll never have to have another surgery in his life. He'll never have to have medication, and he can live a normal life. And to even get a cool scar that he can show off to the ladies. And I'm saying this because I understand at something like that, knowing that we probably would be okay because they caught it early. We're at the best hospital in the world, Johns Hopkins, and we're probably going to be okay. But there were tons of parents. And if I get emotional, I apologize. I promised myself I wouldn't cry on TV or on air. But I may make an exception here because thinking about that moment, that time, that there was a family because my son was in ICU. He was there for about, I don't know, 4 days maybe. And we knew he was getting out. But he's in the ICU, and next to him was another kid who probably wasn't going to make it. He was on a respirator. His parents were there constantly. And I just felt utterly guilty because our son was improving. He was going to get released. And they weren't. We were staying across the street at a Ronald McDonald style place. It's not Ronald McDonald House. If you heard of that, it's basically a place for families to stay. Think of it as an Airbnb, but super duper cheap. And staying there, you cook with the families, you meet the families, and they say, okay, yeah, so your son, what's going on with him? Heart surgery. Oh, okay. When's he getting out? And we're, in 3 days. Oh, how about you? We've been here 7 months. And what I'm trying to get to from a personal experience, this young man, this DJ Daniels, 13 surgeries. And he tells the story. The White House put a video out of his story. If I get a chance, I'll pull it up, about his situation and how they got to the hospital and all of this. And as a parent who's been in that situation at a small, minute level, can't imagine going through that. And there's another video of him being bullied by people last year that hopefully I can bring that up and show you that as well. But the point being, guys, is that if you're going to sit on your hands during that, you are, I don't know what to say about you. I don't know what to say about you at all. All right, let's go to the next clip here. This one is the gentleman who was admitted into, well, we'll see for yourself.
We're joined tonight by a young man, Jason Hartley, who knows the weight of that call of duty. Jason's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all wore the uniform. Jason tragically lost his dad, who was also a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy when he was just a boy, and now he wants to carry on the family legacy of service. Jason is a senior in high school, a 6-letter varsity athlete, a really good athlete, they say, a brilliant student with a 4.46, that's good, GPA. And his greatest dream is to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And Jason, that's a very big deal getting in. That's a hard one to get into. But I'm pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. You will soon be joining the Corps of Cadets.
Bob's Prime, sister, whomever that was. How cool is that, man? How cool is that? And Democrats are not clapping.
Thank you. Jason, you're going to be on the...
And this last one, I don't have a video of this one, but this is Trump honors girls murdered by illegals. Dems refuse to applaud. And it just, I mean, it was just a horrible display of, just being morally depraved and cold-blooded. I mean, the people's families are there. It's not like it's just, a reception, private, and no one's there. But not only are they there, but their family members are there, and the whole country's watching. And I just don't get it. I'm actually going to skip over Nancy Pelosi. I don't really care about her, but there's a clip I had of her looking weak and bleak. But the whole thing that's going on with the Democrats right now is they're, again, to sound like a broken record, they are really just at a point now where they have no option of which way to go. I'll go ahead and play it so you see for yourself what Nancy looks like. It just looks pathetic. And what you saw before they kicked Mr. Al Green out of the session, the first person who was the Sergeant Arms deputy, I'd imagine, he went to Nancy Pelosi first before actually being taken over by somebody else to actually get him out of there. So it's almost as if Nancy Pelosi was kind of the puppet master last night. Not sure about that. Roseanne Barr said this. She said, I take back what I said. The U.S. aid was the final nail in the coffin. Tonight was. Absolutely it was. And let me go to because I don't think I have all of my stuff here. Actually, maybe I do have it. I think it may be easier to go to my Truth Social than to show you these clips. I'm going to pull that up right now. All right, so I am in my Truth Social. I'm going to go through my feed here. And so, yeah, so this video here, this clip here is very, very interesting. Is it not showing up? Hold on. Are we not showing? This screen here doesn't show me, but this screen is showing me. I guess Rumble must be behind. All right, so Rumble's behind. We're good. All right, so this here essentially is a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? There's nothing more to say about that, right? You know what that is. So I want to go back to where I was actually talking about the actual event here. And we'll just move up from where I was. There's a polling number that we saw before. Here's what I said. I said, we're watching the death of the Democrat Party in real time. And that's essentially what Roseanne Barr was saying, that the death knell was last night as well. So I've been around politics for a long time, and this is the best joint session I've ever seen. That is absolutely true. Trump is cooking them, meaning that he's torching them. Let me see here. A few more things here. I said something here where basically was, I may have to paraphrase it, but essentially by the Democrats doing what they did with DJ, by them not clapping for him, basically what they're saying is that in standing for Ukraine means that they care more about war than they care about kids with cancer, more about widows who've lost their husbands through crime or from parents who lost their children. They care more about Ukraine and fighting a war, which, as we all know, has kickbacks coming back to America. We have corruption going back and forth. We have human trafficking going on, child trafficking going on. That was from General Flynn said that. We played that clip yesterday. And you have a situation where they can get out of the war if they just allow us to get a minerals deal, meaning that we're on site, meaning that you'll have security. You won't be part of NATO, but you have security. We'll get money. We get to push China out of the equation because right now they have about a 90% market share on enriched minerals for like superconductors and chips and so forth. So we need that to be competitive in the marketplace. And so once Americans see that there's a solution, we're done. We don't want it anymore. And those polling said that. I think 73% said we're ready to get out of this thing. And with that optics of last night, by them not clapping for those people, for those stories, really prove that that the Democrats ultimately just hate America. Right here, Matt Walsh says, things Democrats didn't clap for: a child cancer survivor, planting a flag on Mars, fighting crime, helping working families, catching terrorists, destroying cartels. The only thing Democrats clap for, Ukraine. And I put a comment here saying it's because Ukraine lines their own pockets. And I think as Doge gets further along, they're going to see that is the case. Here's my my True Social. I said, the Democrats unknowingly are saying to be for Ukraine means, among other things, being against kids with cancer. They did that last night. They clap for what they love, kickbacks they get from Ukraine. It's that simple. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much what it is. And also, I have this here, say this here, that the Democrat Party, why is this not showing up on my screen here? I can, if you guys can see the screen, because it's not showing up on here at all. I'm wondering why it's not showing up. I don't know. I can see it here, but I can't see it on my live feed on Rumble. So we'll continue on. Comment below if you're seeing an issue. I'm not sure what I can do about it, but that's what I'm working with right now. I see here the Democrat Party is underwater by 70 to 80 points on every issue that Americans actually care about. The racist Marxist Party, IG, or example, the party of slavery, poll taxes, segregation, Jim Crow, redlining, murder of unborn babies, et al., and others, which also loves war and profiteering over kids with cancer, widows of officers murdered by thugs, or parents who had their child, I won't say the word, you can see it, and murdered by illegal aliens, is going to be a minority party for the foreseeable future. So, that's pretty much where I'm going to leave this, guys, because we see now that the Democrat Party is really just at a position right now where they just are unattainable in terms of what they're going to be able to do in the future with their party. They're going to take about, for them to get back on track, it's going to take about 12 years minimum to be competitive. As long as the Republicans don't drop the ball, as long as we can get J.D. Vance as the follow-on to Trump, similarly to the way you saw Martin Van Buren after Andrew Jackson, but he wasn't really an heir apparent. It was really James Polk, who came a few years later, who did it. But the point is, he fulfilled the Jacksonian legacy. And if we can continue with that on with America First and the populism movement as it is now, where we have these vertically aligned issues that are non-political, then there's no way we can lose. And by doing these things, the best part about it is that these policies actually work. JFK lowered taxes, it worked. Calvin Coolidge lowered taxes, regulations, shrunk government, it boomed. Reagan did the same thing, it boomed. Clinton, with the help of Republicans, it boomed. And Trump did it in his first term, and it boomed. And so, yeah, that's what we can look forward to going forward here. And the left days are really, really numbered. So there are no more comments here. That's all I have for this stream. It's an hour and 44 minutes in. If you didn't see the visuals, I apologize. I will put those out. I'll review the clip, and I'll put all these clips onto our locals drive, which is our local site, which is actually a good segue into that. And what locals is a well, really, if you go to Rumble and you do join, it takes you to locals. It allows us to have membership privileges on the Rumble side of things. We no longer are using YouTube as our membership program. We're doing everything through Rumble and through locals.com. And again, if you go to our Rumble's site, click on join, or look in the description below, or right here on the screen here, that's where we are. And we'll put all of these graphics and clips, we'll upload them up there. That way you can see for yourself, because for some reason it wasn't showing up on my monitor, which concerns me. We're using StreamYard, and I don't know what StreamYard did for me to be able to see it in my preview and not see it in the actual feed. So something happened there. I got to figure that out. But anyway, guys, that's all I have. We will be back tomorrow with our regular programming with the Conservative Take with Kyle Suggs, which is me, of course. And who knows what we're going to talk about. That will be determined based on the news as of 12 o'clock, maybe say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. By then, we'll have our lineup figured out, and we will go through the show tomorrow only on Rumble. It will not be on YouTube, Rumble only. So check us out at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow on Rumble for the Conservative Take. And until then, guys, I will see you guys in the next one. God bless you, and God bless America.